Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to United in Strengths. And I'm Ryan Nemec, and here with Ruth Pierce, and we represent the VIA Institute on Character, here to offer you all space to breathe, to remember your character strengths, and to connect. And, those three words are there intentionally, not just as taglines for this series, but breathe, remember, and connect really also become three key words to remember. So as we go about our day and trying to make sense of things, trying to find meaning in things, trying to cope with things, we have these three very natural tools that these words represent. So if we're finding that we're struggling with something, we can turn to breathe, and we have an impact immediately then on our physiology. We can turn to the word remember, for remember your strengths, and we immediately have something for our mental well-being, to reappraise situations, to look at things from a different lens. And we have that word connect, to impact on our social well-being, to remind ourselves, when in doubt, connect. When in doubt, reach out to somebody. When in doubt, align ourselves in some way with somebody. So these three words then can serve us as we move forward from moment to moment, using all of them. When we use them together, we're helping ourselves holistically: body, mind, social, spirit. So this week's theme, moving into week 4 here, the theme of meaning. And so we'll be focusing on the theme of meaning as applying it to ourselves. And we'll be thinking about meaning in a what we might think of as little m. We can think of little m or small m and big M, capital M. So little m refers to personal meaning, that which helps us personally to connect. I can connect with my wife or my kids, and seeing those moments and finding those moments of fun and connection. And those are personally meaningful moments. Or I can look out my window and see the green of the trees and the cloud patterns in the sky. And so these can be meaningful moments for me, personal meaning. So that's small m meaning. And that's different for every one of us listening here. We all have our own small m, little m meaning that helps us to personally connect outside of ourselves. And then that can then inform and help us to tap into the big M meaning, which is what some researchers call big M as the meaning of life, and kind of trying to answer life's biggest questions. And so it's fascinating to see how little m impacts big M. My connecting with my kids then helps me to realize the interconnectedness of all things, or the connection with nature and the interconnection of all things. So my little m impacts the big M, and vice versa. So we could really do a whole course, and we probably will sometime, a whole course on meaning and its connection with character strengths and mindfulness. But what we can do here in this short amount of time is offer you nuggets, offer you, brief tastes for this connection. And so what I thought I'd try something a little different today, where it will offer sort of a merging of the meditation and the character strength input portions. So it won't be as, the approach of character strengths and then meditation and then connect. We'll do a merging of the two, and see what you think. So, so in terms of nuggets and tastes, one of the things that I find particularly helpful with this work is to look closely to appreciate one of our signature strengths. So I'd like to lead us in a meditation at this point. So I invite you to choose your highest character strength. In other words, your best signature strength. And you can look on the screen here and choose one of the 24. Whichever strength you think best represents you, is most core to who you are as a person. Probably the strength that's also most energizing, most exciting for you to use, makes you happiest to use. You don't even really have to try very hard because it's just right there waiting for you. So I invite you to select just one right now. And so if you're ready, with that strength, keeping that strength in mind and imagining a couple things with me. First off, take a moment to appreciate this strength in you. To see how important this strength has been for you in your life. How much you have valued this strength. So allow yourself to really see that and appreciate it. We rarely give time to sit back and really deeply acknowledge and appreciate our best qualities. So now is a time to do that. So you can perhaps see how this strength has helped you to achieve many things in your life. It's helped you to connect in so many relationships in your life. No doubt it's helped you to work harder, to play harder, to enjoy life. It's helped you in countless ways, small ways and very big ways. To overcome boredom and to appreciate the greatest things in life. This strength has been there within you all along, helping you. So to just take a moment to appreciate that reality. Really feel in your body how wonderful this strength is, how wonderful it feels. It has a feeling. How nice it is to think about it, and how energizing it is to use it. Just appreciating this part of you. Now I want to invite you to imagine that this strength has been plucked out of you, and you're not allowed to use it for the next month. Imagine that you do not have this strength for the next month. What would that be like? What would that feel like to not have it? So if you chose love, you can't be warm and thoughtful in your relationships. You can't be a good listener. You can't be genuine with anybody. You can't hug or kiss, hold anybody's hand for the next month. If you chose curiosity, you can't explore anything new. You can't pursue anything different. You can't try new things. You can't ask anybody any questions. No exploration for the next month. If you chose prudence, you can't plan for anything. You can't think before you speak. You can't be conscientious. You can't be respectful. You can't set short-term goals. Can't set long-term goals for the next month. So whatever strength you chose, what would it be like to have it absent from you? What would that think like to not have it? What would it feel like in your body to not have it? So I want you to take a nice, slow, deep breath and letting it go and opening your eyes as you're ready, and realizing that it's not real, that you actually still have that strength. And like a couple of you have already started to do in the chat, please right now, everybody, go into the chat and describe in one word or phrase what that would be like to not have the strength you chose for a month. How would you describe that in a word or a phrase? So I see empty coming up a lot, lonely, empty, inauthentic, not myself, terrifying, disconnected, devastating, eviscerating, numb, boring, paralyzed, sad, trapped, scary, emptiness, awful, limiting, disempowered, bereft, blank, bereft, fearful, tight jaw, hopeless, giving up, limiting, sad, devastating, boring, challenging, disconnected, awkward, cold, prison. It would constrain my heart, bored, naked, confusing, mediocre, despair, disconnected, numb, empty, tight, unfamiliar, sad, helpless, curiously challenging, and lost. So I'm sorry to make everybody feel so miserable. So there's an intention behind all this, of course. But you see a pattern here going on. But before we get into that pattern and say more about this exercise, now take a moment to look at the word or phrase you chose. And did you say something that was more feeling oriented or thinking oriented? So did you say something more that's feeling oriented, like I would feel in my body empty and sad? Or did you say something more mental, like I would be mentally confused, or mentally just stressed out in my head? I'd be indecisive, curiously challenged, or more of a feeling of helplessness, and some of the words can kind of go either way. So decide what you meant by it. Did you mean it more from a thinking perspective or a feeling perspective? And with that, whatever one you say, now think about it from the other perspective. So how would you say it the other way? So if you gave more of a thinking-oriented approach, now look at it from a feeling-oriented approach and how you would feel it in your body. If you said something that like sad or helpless, that's more of a feeling-oriented approach, how does that come across more in your thinking? Okay, so we want to kind of be complete then as we look at this. So people are filling in the blanks more now. So I'm seeing deprived and stifled, sad, non-directive, breathless. So we're getting both sides then a little bit. So now I want to invite you to consider, with whatever words you chose, the thinking approach and the feeling approach, what would be a word you would give for the opposite of what you said? And aside from the character strength word, what would be the opposite? So for me, I chose hope, and the feeling, one of the many feelings I would feel from that is deflated. So then the opposite of that is buoyant. For me, I'm not saying the opposite of that, it would be for everybody, but for me, the opposite is feeling buoyant, like kind of uplifted in that sense. And then when in my head, for me when I said hope, I think of that on a thinking level as being lost in the present, like kind of in a negative way, lost in the present. So then if I look at the opposite of that, the opposite of being lost in the present is I feel found or clear in the present or connected in the present. So a lot of these words are coming in from heartful to transcendent and optimized and confident and purposeful and uplifted, energized, inviting, at ease, enlivened, and so on. So perhaps the word that is the opposite for your thinking and for your feeling, you could have come up with both, perhaps those could be words you could use in your own life as we're moving forward in this world. And perhaps this is a couple rhetorical questions. Perhaps this word that you chose that's the opposite, perhaps that can help you to make sense of the world. And that connecting that with this character strength that you chose can help you to make sense of the world. And that's the first area of meaning that researchers and practitioners study, which is called coherence, which is about making sense of the world. That's the thinking-oriented level of meaning. So perhaps this can help you to make sense of the world in a little bit of a fresh way. I know that works for me. When I start to think of my hope as being buoyant, then I feel my body, being a little bit more uplifted, and then I kind of walk. I'm like walking on air as I then walk over to my family, and kind of with a little bit of a extra kick in my step, perhaps. Now, also perhaps the opposite that you chose can help you to feel a sense of significance, a sense of relevance to others, a sense of importance to others, a way of making more connections with others. And that is the second level of meaning in life, which is, I don't mean level literally, but the second area of study of meaning in life, which is called significance. And that's the emotional level, feeling significant, being significant for others. So let's sit with that just for a moment. If you like, you can even close your eyes again. And so breathe with, in and out, with your new words, your opposites, with the character strength that you hold so dear, that's so deeply, deeply part of you, deeply meaningful for you. And as you sit here with your breath, I'll ask you another question. Is the character strength you chose sacred for you? Is it deeply holy, special beyond words? Is it meaningful? If you said yes, then you're acknowledging that you are sacred. You are filled with meaning. You have enormous potential with meaning, with feeling it, thinking about it, and expressing it to the world. So that activity, at least the beginning part of the activity, where we took away our signature strength, is an activity called mental subtraction. And researchers have studied that and found in randomized studies, a couple different studies, that it's a well-being booster. So I knew that we would suffer for a little bit, but with the gains in the long run of feeling a little bit greater well-being, greater perhaps appreciation for ourselves, and appropriate to this theme, although it wasn't one of the research findings because it wasn't looked at, but this theme of meaning, perhaps building more meaning for you. And researchers tend to study that in terms of not like signature strengths like I did, but more of, if you took away your good health, if you took away your family, if you took away the award you won, and so on. And that's usually how it's looked at. But I just applied it for signature strengths. So hopefully this, if we take some different themes of this, and hopefully you're gaining different themes, different threads of meaning for you based on what we've talked about so far. But one of them, if you were to ask me, one of the threads to take away from all this is that these character strengths are ingredients of meaning, and that without our character strengths, meaninglessness ensues and infiltrates. It seeps in. And we might use different words. We might say we felt lost, disconnected, empty, a visceral panic. People often say, a lot of people say depressed and sad, indecisive, things don't make sense, unknown to myself, hollow, colorless, aimless, stressed. Whatever name we give it, it might boil down, in most cases, to a loss of meaning, a loss of being able to make sense of things, a loss of significance of things, and maybe even the third part to meaning, which is purpose, a loss of purpose in life, that aimlessness. So we need our character strengths to give us meaning when we're alone by ourselves, when we're with other people, when we're out in nature, and so on.